And we are so excited to welcome all of you guys back to book club. This is our third meeting, and I cannot believe how quickly things are going. We got together for chapter 1 to talk about what does it mean to live liturgically. We got together for chapter 2 to talk about Advent, and now we are here tonight with you to talk about chapter 3, which is Christmas. So before we get started here too much tonight, I would like to welcome a very special guest. Madeline is joining me all the way from the other side of the pond. Madeline, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. So I'm Madeleine Carroll, and I live in Surrey, in the UK, just south of London. And I'm a mum of 6 and a homeschooler, and I write books for children.
I love that you homeschool. So I'm only a mom of 1, but we homeschool. We do a hybrid program, and I love that. Adam goes to school twice a week, and then the other 3 days he's home, and it's a lovely balance.
Yeah, really good balance. My sister does a similar with her children. It's really nice. Yeah,
that's cool. So what is the age range of your kids?
Yeah, so Felicity is 10. She'll be 11 in March, and then I've got Joachim 9, and I've got Beth is, sorry, there's a child just running now. Beth is 7, Benjamin is 5, Edith, who's just running, is 3, and Micah is 1.5.
Oh, I love your family. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful. You guys do like this amazing Christmas card photo with like all of you guys in matching pajamas?
No, we are the most chaotic, messy, really unorganized family you could imagine, and we literally never manage any of those things.
I love it. You got to keep it real. So I would like to start like we always do with a prayer. So for those of you guys at home who have your books, this is going to be on page 39, and we're going to let our special guest Madeline lead us in prayer tonight.
Lord, for so long I have celebrated Christmas in place of the joyous Advent season. I have inadvertently shortened my celebration of the 12 days of Christmas, often exhausted by the hustle and bustle of the month leading up to December the 25th. As I enter into this chapter, I long to learn about the actual Christmas season, which begins on Christmas Day and ends on the feast of the baptism of the Lord in mid-January. I pray that my heart be open to view many of the traditions we celebrate, especially those Christmas traditions begun many years ago with a fresh perspective. I want to look anew at my family's wonderful traditions passed down from generation to generation. Lord, reveal the reasons behind our celebrations as they relate to my relationship with you. By taking the time to learn the origins of our traditions, and by saving the celebrations until the season of Christmas, we can bring greater meaning and grow closer to Christ during this special time of year.
Yes. Perfect, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about entering into the Christmas season. So, obviously we've been talking about how we live a liturgical cycle. And I think we shared during the very first meeting we had how it reminds me of shampooing your hair, because on the back of the bottle, it always says like wash, rinse, repeat. I was actually sharing with Madeline, I got a new little do yesterday. So I'm hopefully going to use less of that shampoo in my washing. And, we do repeat that cycle every year, and it is a very cyclical period. So you'll see we are now entering into Christmas. Christmas is a little bit smaller of a period than Advent. We talked last time too how Advent goes anywhere. I think it was like, oh my gosh, it was like 22 to 30 something days. I don't remember off the top of my head, depending on when St. Andrew's feast day falls. But Christmas is usually 12 days, and that's where you hear the traditional 12 days of Christmas. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today as well. But I have a question for all of you guys at home. I want to talk about your Christmas tree. I want to know, and you have to be honest here in the comments, I want to know, when do you guys put your Christmas tree up? Here in the US, it's very common to see Thanksgiving turkeys with that Christmas tree right there in the background, right around that end of November. Other people, like I usually like to try to hold off and put my tree up until right around St. Lucy's feast day. That was actually this past Monday for us, but I lost out this year, and our tree went up like 4 days after Thanksgiving. And I'm not a Christmas person, so I'm already like ready for this tree to come down. But usually you see this on the curb, right? The day after Christmas, everybody's trees have been up for so long that even though technically the Christmas season has just started, everyone's trees are dead. So I want to know from all of you at home, when does your tree go up? And Madeline, tell me, when do you guys start to decorate for Christmas?
So it's funny. It's a funny one in our house because I grew up at Cradle Catholic, and we would put our trees up around 20th of December or maybe 15th, like around that time. But my husband is like super we must celebrate Advent all the way. He wants to like put it up on like the 24th. And like, I'm just like, and then he also, because he's not that organized, he'll go off and Christmas shop for us all on the 24th too. So I'm like, I'm gradually moving it back, like, but it's taken a long time. I'm like, I know we need to celebrate Advent, but we need it just a few days before, because, you know, we need to decorate it, and you need to go shopping, because I know you're always going late.
I'm always impressed by those people who have all of their Christmas shopping done before Advent starts. They're like, oh yeah, you know, I usually do it like in October. And I'm like, we're leaving to go visit family in like 3 days, and I still have presents I need to go figure out. And I'm like trying to coordinate it with Amazon. Like, well, can Amazon ship it?
Yes. Yes. Straight Prime, Amazon Prime, how many days?
Yeah, you know, you do what you got to do. Yeah. You do what you got to do. So I can see from the comments that a lot of you guys put your trees up early, and some of you guys put them up later. You know, there really is that that variety, but hopefully you're going to keep it up at least through the 12 days of Christmas. So let's talk a little bit about that. So this is a very popular song that a lot of you guys probably learned growing up. You know, 12 drummers drumming, 11 pipers piping. There's actually, what is the band that I like that sings this? Straight No Chasers. Oh, yeah. They are phenomenal. Have you heard that version?
Yeah.
It's so good.
I've heard that version, but I know of them just because my friend loves them.
They're so good. So I'm probably going to mispronounce this word. I think it's called a cappella. When they sing in harmony with no instruments, and they're kind of their own beatbox and sounds. They're like pentatonics, but they're so good. So there's your little tip for the day. You guys have to go look that video up and listen to them singing this song, because it's phenomenal. But, you know, the truth is Christmas really is just getting started on Christmas Day. You know, we celebrate all 12 days of it, because it begins with that vigil mass on Christmas Eve, and it goes all the way through Epiphany. Now we'll hear this talked about like 12th night. You know, like our church usually has like a choir concert, and you can get together and sing. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. But there's a lot of special traditions around that 12th night celebration. Madeline, do you guys do anything special for 12th night?
Yeah, so growing up, we always brought the three kings into the stable on 12th night. And this year, actually, my friend, the fellow mom, who's got loads of little ones too, she's also an amazing singer, and she has got a carol concert on 12th night. So I'm going to book us in, myself and my eldest, to go and see that. So yeah, similar really, but we love putting the kings into the stable of our crib at that time.
I love that. You know, we used to do that at the parish that we belong to. We just built the actual church a couple of years ago. And before that, we had just been in, you know, we bought the land, and they built almost like an all-purpose 2-story building, right? We just called it the parish center. And the upper level was like a big basketball court with a stage, and that's where we would have mass. And then the lower level was kind of more like the kitchen, the offices, and stuff like that. So we just built our church. I say just, but it's probably been like 5 or 6 years now, but it still feels kind of new. Yeah. Well, what was neat was when we were in the basketball court, the wise men would start in one corner, and every week during mass, they would like creep closer.
Did they have a basketball?
It was, I mean, these were like life-size wise men. I don't know where they got them, but they were huge. And it was like the neatest thing to be like, where are they this week? Yeah. Because they didn't always take like a logical path. You know, they'd be like here, then they were over here. So it was always kind of fun. Yeah, it was a really neat thing that they would do. You reminded me of it when you were talking about the wise men. But I want to talk about the 12 days here. So this is kind of an interesting story, because I think a lot of our faith comes from storytelling. And, you know, so much of our Catholic roots come from that, because people didn't always write things down. And we talked a lot about this in chapter 1, you know, where I think it was St. Paul said, you know, hold fast to those traditions, both the oral and the written. And so this is an oral tradition. Oral traditions, again, are those ones that just get passed down from people talking. So, you know, the caveat I always like to give with this is, if you've ever played the telephone game, as things get passed down, you know, the original story isn't always the way it ended by the time, but the gist of it is there. So the tradition behind this story says that from 1558 until about 1829, Roman Catholics in England were not permitted to practice their faith. This was kind of going along with the whole Henry VIII and everything else that he was going on with the Church of England. So the oral tradition says that this story was written the 12 days of Christmas as a way for people to help remember their faith. So each element in the story supposedly has like a secret code. So if you're into like the DaVinci Code, you're going to love this. I'm going to pop it up here on the side, and I'm not going to read this off to you, but you guys can kind of read through this. But each of those 12 days of Christmas was really said, according to tradition, to have a meaning that gives us a way to remember basic catechesis. So I just think that's a kind of a fun story to share, and even if it's not necessarily totally true, we can make it part of our faith traditions and share some of that with our family. I love this. It
helps us to remember those things as well, isn't it? Like,
it totally
it
does.
helps us to kind of cement it. Yeah.
Even like with the Beatitudes, someone had asked the other day, they're like, how many Beatitudes? I'm like, oh, there's 8. And it was just like, it was there because we were working on the book, and it was just one of those little facts that stuck with you. So to your point, it works great. So this is just a fun little, back history you can go ahead and share with your families. So let's talk about the 12 days of Christmas, because there is a heck of a lot of stuff going on during those 12 days. It's not like, oh, we made it to Christmas, I'm done, the presents are opened. And I think that's one of the things, again, we talked about with Advent, was we want to make sure that we don't pack Advent so full of busyness that come Christmas, we're like, I'm done. Burned out. I don't want to do this anymore. So here's some of the busiest feast days that fall, or not busiest, but some of the major feast days. Now, there's obviously more. I didn't put them all in here. But these are some of the big feast days that occur during those 12 days of Christmas. Madeline, I'm curious, what does your family do, if anything? No pressure if there's nothing special you guys do. Because to be honest, we don't do a whole lot during those specific 12 days. We usually just kind of, keep our decorations up. Yeah. We get together with some friends and we do our 12th night ceremony. But are there anything special you guys do during the 12 days?
Yeah, so growing up again, there wasn't much. We'd visit a lot of family. So we're a big family, and big kind of big families of aunts and uncles and things. So we would do family visiting, but I am trying to develop more traditions now. So when I visit my siblings, apart from my brother in America, I'll visit all my siblings just up the motorway from us, and I want us to do some carol singing just up the lane where my sister lives, where we'll meet. But I do know of this amazing family in London, an Italian family, half Italian, half Polish, and they do things for every day of the 12 days, and it's pretty amazing. They get a big tent in the garden and they have loads of guests and they just do stuff. So I'm kind of inspired, but obviously when you have a family, you got to keep things like doable as well.
That's neat. We're so I say we, but I'm Polish Catholic, and my family is not that many far generations removed from coming to the US. Yeah. And I'm Polish on both sides, which is kind of a rarity to find. I even did that, what is that called? 23andMe. And I came back as 99% Polish, which I was like, woo!
That's so cool. That's very cool.
It was neat. And so we have a lot of those traditions in my family because it's not that far removed. And so, when you talk about having traditions, I totally get that, because that's important to me from a heritage perspective to keep those going. I don't speak Polish. I speak Polish food because we grew up on a lot of those foods.
Oh, nice.
So we eat a lot of those meals, but that's about the extent, no real good language. Whereas my husband grew up outside of any faith. And so for him, this is all brand new. And so we've just been trying to keep the traditions that work for us as a family, and then maybe, let go of some of those ones like you were saying that just feel like too much work. We've never done the matching, even though there's only 3 of us, we've never matched Christmas pajamas under a tree for a card. Not a tradition for us.
Not
It's just too much. So, I'm going to have you guys in the comments here. I would love to hear about some of the traditions that you guys celebrate during those 12 days, or how you celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. Just what are some of those things you do with your families? Because I think this is a really good opportunity for all of us to learn from each other and to be able to share some ideas as we go through this. So I want to talk a little bit about a term that we talked about, at the very beginning. It's called popular piety. And that's the celebration of our faith in a way that brings meaning. Listed here are a couple different items that embrace that spiritual feeling, that we should have when we're celebrating our traditions. We want to know, are the gifts that we have being rooted in God's love for us? Are we practicing solidarity with the poor? Are the traditions we have really making sure that we're not kind of taking our family's yacht out and just kind of, you want to make sure that you're keeping, everyone in spirit during the Christmas season. You want to make sure that all your traditions are always having a reverence for the sacredness of human life, that you're practicing that joy, and that you have that spirituality of simplicity, and poverty to a point. And, I want to kind of share how we do this. And there's thousands of ways, right? No one way is right or wrong. But some of the things we try to do during Christmas, just to give back a little bit. Our church does something called Christmas Angels. And so we have a little tree outside Mass, and we live in a military town. And so a lot of the families here are just displaced. The spouse is not around because they are deployed right now. And what our Christmas Angels tree does is it brings all the wishes of the military families, the moms, the dads, and the kids. Actually, even a pet, we saw a couple pet requests this year on the tree. And they just, I would like to have this. Like, it would be a joy for Christmas to have this. And it's so humbling for me because my husband and I were talking this year, like, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I could probably use a new Apple Watch because mine's a couple years old now and the new one looks cool. Like, I don't need anything. Some of these families are asking, like kids asking for a new pair of pajamas. And to me, like, that's so humbling, because if a child's asking for pajamas over toys, what kind of situation must they be in? And so for us, that's just something that we do, and then we all take a little, they're just like little, like, I'm going to call them ornaments, just like a paper ornament with string. And we'll take those and we'll find one that speaks to us. And then we'll go shopping for those gifts, and bring those back. And that's for us how we try to keep a little bit of faith, a little bit of extra faith in our holiday. What do you guys do that you have as a way of kind of, keeping Christmas maybe a little bit outside of just your immediate family?
Yeah. So that's a really beautiful idea, actually. And it's funny because it reminds me, my girls and I watch a Hallmark series called When Calls the Heart, which is like this pioneer town, really kind of sweet, and the girls love it. But there is a kind of Christmas special, and they talk about this giving tree where people, I think the orphans or the town or something, they hang ornaments on. So it's such a lovely idea. So I'd heard of it from there, but it's really nice that, as you say, this military town and you're all helping each other out. I think the thing that my mum was very good at doing was always having people over for a Christmas meal, like on Christmas Day, like loads of people.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like priests that didn't, that were kind of, they're not in just one set parish, they were sort of traveling, they could come to a meal. And there was a really lovely neighbor that was kind of like my grandmother. I'd visit her a lot, and she lost her husband very, very young and had no children. And so I think she would come to us around the Christmas season, not stay very long, but that was, my mum was always really good at like setting that extra place and just having. And now my sister, we all kind of go to my sister's now, who lives next door to mum, and my sister's done the same thing. She has sort of maybe friends that are currently abroad and they haven't really got family to go to, they'll come for the Christmas meal. And I think that's a really, really nice thing to do. Our Christmas dinners, or like our meals in general in the Carol house, are just so chaotic. I don't know if anyone would ever want to come and have a meal with us, but it is something my husband and I have been talking about. Like he runs a business, and his employee was saying he doesn't really know where he's going for Christmas this year. So I was saying, you can come to us. I don't know if you'll want to, but he can. So it's kind of, I'm a bit of an introvert, so in some ways it might be quite a big thing for me to do, but that is what it's about, I suppose, isn't it? We have to remember that, and we'll probably get a lot out of it if we do open our hearts that bit much more.
I love that idea of just opening up your home to have other people join you. That is really, really cool. And to that point, like, if your coworker comes, he's going to be so thankful to have that fun chaos, because I guarantee that'll bring back memories of his Christmas too. You know what I mean? I love that. I love that idea. That would be super fun to do. Let's talk a little bit about the Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. The bane of my existence right now, because like we live in San Diego, and not that all houses are small here, but the weather's really nice here. Almost year round. We kind of really only have one temperature. It's nice. Although it did get down to like 42 degrees Fahrenheit last night. It was a little chilly. The heater kicked on this morning. But I'm sitting here and I'm wearing my Christmas sweater for you guys. And I'm sweating a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little hot. But our houses are small because we spend a lot of time outside, which means when you have a small house and you have a giant tree now that has displaced the table, that was where, the only spot that little table fit. For me, I feel like there's stuff everywhere, but.
Yeah.
my family loves
the
the tree.
needles dropping? Are all the pine needles dropping off your tree?
No, because we have a fake one.
Okay, that's good.
We had a real one a few years ago, actually many years ago. We got one, honestly, this was probably like 15 years ago. We had a cat at the time. And this was my only experience with having a real tree. The cat was drinking the water in the bottom and he was throwing up because it's like toxic to them. So like every day I was cleaning up pine needles and cat puke. And I'm like, doing this again.
No idea.
Like that was it.
Right, yeah.
We got a fake one and we've had a fake one since.
Get a fake one. You have to do what works.
Yeah, honestly, but I love the look of real trees because they smell so good. And the fake ones, I feel like you can walk into a home and you just know. It doesn't matter how good a fake tree is, if it's a real one or not. Do you guys do a real tree?
Well, we do for our sins. I mean, like all my babies and toddlers pull all the things off. There's needles all over the floor. And as you say, that's where our table football game was. And now we're moving that out to the tree. And so where's that going to go? And yeah, I know what you mean. It is.
It gets a little disheveled, but I think those people say the holidays are crazy. I think it is because not only I think are you physically busy, with just, you've got to do your Christmas shopping and they're preparing for the meals and somebody always has a fun holiday Christmas party or Advent party. Yeah. But also there's not, I think, and this doesn't apply to everyone, because some people love that decor of their home. But for me, my home is you can see I've got like white and gray. That's my whole house. There's not a lot of color. I'm not a color person. Actually, this is my one red sweater. And for me, my home is like a calming respite for me. And when I come home now, it's not. And so to me, that just kind of adds a little bit to that chaos of Christmas. But we embrace it, right? Because it's only for a couple of weeks and my family loves it so much. It is hard, right? Amen.
The floor is coming out of our crib and I'm like, put it back in,
It is. It's a challenge. And I think it's funny because as I've gotten older, I've learned kind of the crazy of what my parents probably had to do. Because as a kid, I loved it. I didn't care. None of this meant anything to me. It was like, oh, look how beautiful things are and how perfect. And I'm like, oh, I understand.
The fixed grin. And my dad used to walk around with a black bin bag and stuffing all of the wrapping paper, like desperately stuffing it in. I was like, Dad, stop stressing out. Yeah. I get it now.
You do. You totally do. Yeah. And the gift cards that get picked up in the trash and I just threw like $100 away.
Yeah. Oh, it's so awful.
It is. But the Christmas tree is such a key visual for Christmas. And I want to talk about where legend says the Christmas tree comes from. So there's a couple different stories. I'm going to share what I've learned to become the most popular story. And that's about Saint Boniface. So it was in the year 680 AD. So about, close to 700-ish, almost 700-ish years after Jesus, like 650. He went out and he chopped down a tree that was being worshipped by several pagans. This was in Germany. And in its place, a very small fir tree grew, like an evergreen tree. Yeah. So St. Boniface went and he used that as a teaching opportunity. And he said, I want you guys to notice some really important things about this tree. First off, if you think of the shape of a Christmas tree, it's a triangle. And he said, that's the 3 points. That's your Father, your Son, and your Holy Spirit. He also shared how the evergreen tree is evergreen all year. And it's like God's love for us. It never starts, it never finishes. It is always going to be there. It's not like, like I'm looking out the window we've got some fruit trees. And for us, it's orange season. So my orange tree looks so good right now and it's full of fruit. But, come midsummer, there's nothing on there. It's just, it's not dead, but it's just, it's not nearly full of life. Whereas that evergreen tree, it's the same all year long. It's constant. A second fun story about how the decorations on the tree came on. And actually, if you guys are in the comments, I would love to hear what legends and stories you've heard about Christmas trees. We can compare notes. A second story I've heard about where the decorations for the trees come from was from the medieval plays that they would have, their mystery plays. So they didn't have traditional lighting like we do. So they would put the trees up now on the stage and they would put candles in the trees, which kind of seems a little like a flammable hazard to me. Especially since they didn't have modern firefighters to take care of it. But that's where the lights came from, that we still put lights in our trees, albeit not flammable candles. and that they would also put in red apples in the tree, representing Adam and Eve and original sin. And if you think about there, where that's now translated, where that color red comes from, why we still celebrate the red and the green for Christmas, and we put red balls in our tree now as opposed to red apples. Madeline, have you heard either one of those legends or stories?
Yeah, I knew about the St. Boniface one, and I wrote last year I was working with some other mums, and we put together a little like advent box for families, and I wrote a little piece on St. Boniface, which is a great story. And I heard a bit that they were worshipping it, and he was like, look, and he said, if I chop it down, I'm not going to get struck by lightning. They were like, you're going to get struck by the gods. He's like, no, I'm not. And so that's what I've heard. But I didn't know about the apples, and that's really interesting. In the medieval plays, I had no idea. So that's really cool. I've learned something new every day.
Yeah, I thought that was well, and I did too, because I had no idea about the lightning. You should have told that story, because you did it way better than I did.
No. It's a good one. I do like Boniface, yeah.
It's neat, and I love I think for me, and I hope for all of you guys that are watching this and with us tonight and joining us, that you can appreciate so much of what we do in a whole new way. Because I think sometimes we just put up this tree and we put on our, we've got red glass balls, we've got green glass balls. We have less every year because we break more. But that's, I look at them now a little bit differently. When I put them up, I'm like, oh, this is because of the apples. Oh, we have the lights on our tree, the white lights, because of the candles that they used to do when they were doing these beautiful plays and sharing faith in the towns. It just kind of brings a little bit different of a sense, a little bit deeper meaning for me on the whys and why we do the things that we do. I really like that. So I want to talk about our churches a little bit. So, we've been talking a lot about preparing our hearts for Christmas. And, part of that heart is, hopefully this is a tradition for you guys, which is going to Christmas Mass. And you're going to see when you go that suddenly all that purple and even that rosy pink color from the third week is gone now. And everything has been replaced with that brilliant white color. And it's a big change, because you'll see it in the vestments. You'll even see it if your church, not all churches do, but a lot of the churches put up an Advent wreath. And in the middle of that wreath is Christ's candle. That's what they call it. It's a nice white candle, or it's kind of silver and sparkly. And again, that's really celebrating like it is here. Everything that we've been waiting for is here. And it's a lot of fun to do. Now, we have some fun traditions on Christmas Eve. We always tend to eat our meal on Christmas Eve and then go to midnight Mass. And it's a really neat Mass to go to, because there's the caroling beforehand and there's the decorations of the parish. And it's just a lot of fun. What do you guys do on Christmas Eve?
Yeah, so we did used to go to midnight Mass when I was like a teenager with my teenage siblings. And I think we've managed it once with the children, and we do want it to become a tradition. But one of the little girl that ran in at the beginning, she actually has some learning difficulties, and I think she wouldn't manage the midnight Mass for her. So at the moment, we're still doing morning, but I love the idea of midnight Mass. And actually, my children, and I trained as a catechist for the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and my children go to the little classes, and there's a whole liturgical seasons like work that you do, and they talk about all the different colors that the priests will wear throughout the year. And there's like purple for preparation, green for growing time, white for light is that's how the children learn it. Like,
I like that, white for light.
Yeah, and it's nice, and it's sort of like, yeah, he's the light of like the world and everything. So yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. We'll eventually do midnight Mass, but it is, and I do love it. I do remember it with like fondness from when I was growing up.
I want to clarify and add, we're not getting kudos for going to midnight Mass. When I was little, it actually was at midnight, but our church does it at 8:00.
Oh, yes. So does our church, actually. So we still haven't managed that either.
We're still home, and how does that go? Like with Saint Nick, like all, like we're all tucked in our beds by like 9:30.
Plums in our heads, yeah.
Yeah, it's really not that late of a night. I don't.
But there is something special about doing, 8:00 or midnight. It's something special about the eve, isn't it? It's a really amazing.
Yeah, I like it more, and I think I like it because it's different than what we normally do. So like during the normal year, we usually go to Mass at 10:30. It's kind of more of our church's family Mass. And somehow when we just go to the same Mass on Christmas, it doesn't feel as exciting. Plus I feel like there's magic at night. And I don't know why I don't know why that feels it, but somehow when you go at night, the lighting is different. The candles glow even more, and it just seems so much more beautiful. So I love having, our family dinner, and then we'll go to midnight Mass around 8:00. And it's a really enjoyable time.
he was born in the night, wasn't he? So like,
yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
fair. That's totally fair. That's a real good point. So I want to say this, we can't, just like we couldn't talk about Advent without talking about Mary being pregnant, we can't talk about Christmas without talking a little bit about Mary, because it's her labor that brought forth this beautiful day. I've got here 2 different pictures of Mary. She was featured in the 2015 December edition of National Geographic. She was described as the most powerful woman in the world. She's also been the most frequently appearing woman on the cover of Time magazine since it began in 1923. And so with such a famous mother, sometimes it can feel like she's just, right? She only goes by her first name, like Cher or Beyonce, she's Mary, no last name needed. and I want to talk a little bit about her here with you guys for a minute. So, just put yourself back. And again, we were just listening to some Christmas music this morning. Matt Maher has a phenomenal song about the angel Gabriel coming to see her, which there's another thing that's 2 homework assignments for you. You have to look that song up as well. But, the angel comes and he greets Mary here, and he's like, "Oh, hail, favored one, the Lord is with you." And Mary is greatly troubled by this. And she's wondering what sort of greeting this is, which I think is a very nice way of saying, like, oh my gosh, like I would be totally stressed about that. I would be freaking out. I'd be wondering, like, what was in the breakfast I just ate? Like, this is not okay. And the angel tells her it's okay. Don't be afraid. And to me, this is the most powerful thing that happens, because she suddenly wasn't. Her faith was so strong that she just let go of all of those fears and she opened her heart to God's plan. And I think about this story and what would it be like if it was us? And obviously an angel has never come to my door to give me this kind of news. But what has happened is, like a lot of people, we have had very painful, very hard news. For me, it was about, I guess it was the end of 2018. I started to get real sick, and we didn't know, just from a pain perspective, we didn't know what was going on. We were traveling at the time. I think I shared the story with you guys a while ago, but for a year, we rented our house out and we just camped across the US. It was so much fun. And right in the middle of our camping, I just started to hurt everywhere. We started to go to doctors. I was going to we were literally carrying this folder across state lines of like MRI results. And finally we're like, this is crazy. We need to go home. So we came home early, and the first doctor I see, he's like, oh my gosh, this might be like something really serious. Like, what if this is ALS? And I'm like, no, like literally you don't just throw stuff around like that. So I'm freaking out. We don't know what's going on. Fast forward, turns out it was some kind of massive inflammatory disease I had picked up. It led to fibro. We're learning to manage that, so amen that it was nothing terminal. But that was a real test of my faith, because there was a lot of tearful nights, especially when they were like, this could be really something serious, because we can see all this nerve damage. Immediately going like, is this it? Like, is this it for me? And that was a real test for me, for my faith. And I turned a lot to thinking about what Mary did. And she just let go of all of that. She just gave it all to God. And she was a role model for me during that time, because I wanted to be just like her, in the sense that, God, honestly, like, I trust you, and whatever your will is, let that be my will too. I'm curious, have you ever been through, Madeline? Obviously we all have different experiences, but have you ever had a time where you've just had to literally use that expression of just let go and let God?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I'm sorry that you've been through such a hard time, and I'll keep you in my prayers.
Thank you.
Yeah, it plods along okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's various times life happens. I think maybe the most recent thing for me would be my little Edith she was 3 in May, and my older boys were having speech delays, and I wasn't that worried about that because everything else was fine, but there was speech delay in the family. Now I noticed she had the speech delay, and I was like, it's kind of, oh, poor thing, she's falling on her brothers, because my other girls are really fine with their speech. It's a funny one. And then I started noticing some behavioral issues and very hard to pinpoint. And in the past, I've worked with lots of different children. I've worked with autistic children and things. And I suddenly started thinking, okay, we might, there might be a diagnosis that needs to be had here to help manage all of the struggles she was having, and she continues to have. And And I think we're getting to the end, and it was hard for me to let go of, like, because I'm a bit of a control freak. I want to be in control. I've got all these children, I need to know what's wrong with them all the time, and so I can fix it,
Yeah.
Which to a certain, I'm always thinking in the back of my head, God is like, God helps those. I was thinking God is saying God helps those who help themselves.
Yes.
Like,
well, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I have to read this, and at some point I couldn't. So COVID hit, when she's still on the waiting list for pediatrician appointment, because obviously COVID has taken everything back. So we still have no formal diagnosis, and in the end I realized, my husband and I came to terms with it. There's something going on. We're not sure what it is. Maybe ADHD with a verbal problem and sensory issues. But it's like, and it's not the worst thing in the world. But I think the just trying to help her, and sad for her, and how is she going to fit into the homeschooling thing when she's so all over the place and all of that. I've just had to sort of wait and just give it to God. We're still waiting for the pediatricians, but we're putting little bits in place. She goes to a little nursery now, which she loves, and I just tell everybody, like, we go to mass and we're wearing a mask. She doesn't like the mask situation, so she pulled it off. And I'm just learning to come around to say to people, I'm really sorry, this little one has problems, just be aware, that's why the mask is on the floor. And it's like, at some point I just have to give it all to Mary, like she did, and just trust that God is in all of the unknown and the uncertainty of this time, I suppose.
And that it is, because there is so much uncertainty. I think, there's a really great psalm that reminds me of this, and it talks about how the righteous will never be shaken and they'll be remembered forever, that we won't fear bad news. We're going to remain steadfast. We're going to trust in the Lord. Our hearts are going to be secure, and so much of this is, I think, those qualities that Mary really embodied. And I think all of us, even if we haven't had hardships in our very personal lives, I mean, my gosh, look at the 2 years now almost that we've lived through. I mean, these have been just completely unprecedented times, and we're still living them. Like today, obviously is a big day for us here in California, because we're now locked back down again with masks. Not in building, but we went from going, as long as you're vaccinated, and now you get your booster, and now we're back to wearing, you cannot go outside of your house without a mask on. And so, it's another step back, and, so we're all rethinking holiday plans. Like, should we really be going and traveling for Christmas? Like, and it's just that stress of it. And we're just one little family, and how many billions of people are in this world, and we're all going through this. And I think, again, this is an opportunity for all of us to really try to just, what, God, like, you've got this, like, this is you. And just give me peace. Help me to manage this. Help me to make those choices, and just give me peace.
I agree. And I'm sorry about the masks. We're back with masks as well.
Oh, are you guys? Yeah, so ours are indoor. I think you're allowed outside. To be honest, I just haven't had a chance, because it was like, our notices are probably like yours, where you get them like 24 hours in advance kind of thing. And so I've got the text message saved on my phone, and I'm like, okay, I just need to sit down today and kind of read through this.
Go through it all. Yeah.
Figure everything else back out. But we got to refine our masks, because, my son needs his for school. And it's funny, because when we were home for COVID before, because his school year started back up normally, I mean, as normal as things are, in September, or really August, the end of August. Yeah. But, we went through almost a year and a half with the same, like, 3 masks. He managed to lose all 3, like, the first week of school. Like, I'm like, I don't even know how you're losing them. Like, you leave them on the whole time. Like, where are they going? So, we made a couple extras. Thankfully, I sew, so it's not that big a deal. But, we're back to now, because we haven't needed them. That's what we're going to be doing this afternoon. Yeah, we're going to sew some masks.
It feels like the afternoon.
Yeah, it'll be a mommy and me activity for the day. At least I think I still have some pirate fabric laying around. You got to make it fun for the children. Yeah, well, he used to have a really cool St. Michael one, and that one went somewhere. Although I'll be fair, I had an Our Lady Guadalupe one I made myself, and same thing, like, the elastic just got frayed, because and I probably wore it longer than I should have. But it just finally fell apart. But
it's because we've never grown up wearing masks. Like, it's a whole new culture.
It totally is. Yeah, I'll have to make some Christmas colored ones here to celebrate. And it's fun talking about that, because it's actually a great leadway to Christmas in your home. So maybe if you're wearing masks in your home, you guys may want to grab some Christmassy colors. But we've talked a lot about preparing our hearts, and now we're going to talk about preparing our hearth, preparing our home. So in the comments, I want to know, how do you guys decorate your home? Like, what happens on or around Christmas that show that it's not Advent anymore. Christmas is here. For me, obviously, I quilt at Faith and Fabric. That's like our basis. So we put up all of our Christmas quilts. Again, it's a little more stress because there's more stuff laying around my house, but it's only 12 days, so I can handle it. We put those up, and then we also flip over our Advent bunting. So this is our little bunting there. It's got our Advent wreaths on one side, so it's great for decorating. We just literally flip it over, and it's Christmas joy on the other side. What do you guys do in your house, Madeline, to mark that as like a different period? Do you guys have any like physical things? I know you said you put your tree up later, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have our Jessie tree out, and we always we always get like behind hanging the ornaments. So we try and get all the ornaments on the Jessie tree. We have our little Advent calendar, so we'll have opened all of that up. I'm just thinking, so we have these stockings that we put by the fireplace, and the tree goes up now, and the lights, we try and put lights up around the inside of the house. Where we live on a really lovely little community actually of homeschooling families on this piece of land, and a lot of my sisters got this, not my sister, my daughter has got this whole thing of, they've got lights up now, we need to get lights up. So we've just gone out and bought a whole load of lights to go outside the house as well as inside the house. So we have that. I think this year we're gonna really focus on lights for the children. They seem to be quite excited.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is a really cool idea.
So that's nice. But the bunting sounds really nice. That's a really fun idea. The Advent one and then the Christmas one. That's great.
It is. It's nice because we just literally like take it and flip it over, and
just perfect.
It's easy decorating. There's so many other events though that we talked about that are part of this Christmas season. And we put some of them up here. And I think one of the things I want you guys to just think about as real life happens here behind me is, what are those things that you can incorporate into your Christmas? So, I would encourage you to pick out, maybe one new thing to do during Christmas here. So like I said, for us, we really enjoy going to that 12th night concert. That's just a real special way. Maybe it's something you do with your family different that marks Christmas is starting or Christmas is ending. Maybe you make a point this year that instead of leaving your tree up till February, maybe you bring it down around Epiphany, or maybe you mark Epiphany in a special way with the Three Kings. You make like a Three Kings cake or something. There's so many ways that, and I mean, we've talked a lot about this, especially during Advent. You guys know, like my favorite way of celebrating anything is with food, because we have to eat anyway. So, if you can make dessert that ties into a feast day, awesome. You know what I mean? Just like we just did our Lady Guadalupe, we went out for Mexican food.
Oh, nice.
So it's really easy. I'm not a huge foodie, but again, we have to eat, so we might as well just make that something that helps us celebrate a little bit. So with that, Madeline, anything you guys want to add that you guys would like to just share about Christmas or holidays before we wrap it up?
So just one last thing is something that we do, again, where we live on this piece of land. There's one of the family's brother is a priest, and he comes regularly, and actually on Epiphany, it's a really nice thing to do, is he blesses the houses. So with chalk and holy water, it does these Epiphany blessings where you write above the doorposts, you write C, which is for Casper of the Three Kings, plus M for Melchior, plus B for Balthazar. So it's like C plus M plus B, and then you do the year, like 2022 it'll be, and that's like, and then he blesses the house. And it's really funny because our priest has got a sense of humor, so he goes around to the rabbit hutch, in the field, and he goes to my husband's office, and he goes to like the bike shed, and he goes does all these different houses, and that's kind of a fun way to like end, if you want to like, or end that that part of Christmas with the Epiphany. You can kind of it's just a nice way of marking Epiphany, and that's just something that you can add in if you want to.
I love that idea. We did that a couple of years ago. Our church passed out chalk, and we put the date above our doorway out front. We just did it ourselves. I want to live where you live, by the way. That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. But it's funny because, like I said, we don't get a lot of weather here, so I think it still says like 2019 above my doorway outside.
I have got a few of that as well. I've got to rub it out.
because we've got like a little like porch overhang above it, and it needs to come down. It's time. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us for book club tonight. This has been really fun, and it's a great segue for Christmas coming up here in, a little over a week. I cannot believe it. It's a little over a week. Thank you for joining us for this wonderful evening. Madeline, thank you for joining us all the way from the UK. This was really great to connect with you.
It was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And we look forward to seeing all of you guys who are joining us for book club for chapter 4, Lent. I know that feels like it's such a far event away, but I feel like sometimes Christmas comes and then it's the new year and we start all our new resolutions and then like it's Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
So we'll be getting into talk about Lent. If you guys have any feedback or questions that you want to share, here is my email address. You can always reach out to me. You can also subscribe to that little address there. That'll get you on the list, so you'll get reminders every time book club rolls out. And with that, I just want to thank you for joining us. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Bye.